What's up, guys? Welcome back to the NS Builders podcast. This week I want to talk about, what it means to be cohesive, especially in design. A lot of the discussions that I've been having lately on some of these consulting calls, and let me shamelessly plug that, if you guys would like to have a one-on-one conversation about your business, your branding, marketing, something specific to your company, hit up nickschiffer.com. That's nickschiffer.com. There's a link also below here. You can schedule a one-on-one consulting call. I've been having a ton of fun with them. I think we're booked out into the fall at this point, only doing a select number per week. But one of the reoccurring things I've been talking about is a marketing perspective. Now, I'm not going to ruin next week's Modern Craftsman podcast, but we did sit down with Michael Michalowicz and had a great conversation about marketing. I urge you to listen to that when it comes out on Monday. But I want to talk about marketing, and how it pertains to my business and the conversations I've been having on all these calls. Now, what these conversations have really been focused around is, building the brand. And one of the things I said early on when it was just myself and a helper in this company is that I wanted to build a brand that was bigger than just, a home builder or just a carpentry company at that time. I wanted to create awareness. And I've more recently alluded to the fact or compare this to the sales funnel. Now, if you don't know what a sales funnel is, it probably sounds like a scheme, but it's basically just the psychology behind sales, meaning that, for instance, if, let's talk about Instagram, you're scrolling and you see an ad for these new t-shirts. I feel like that's all I get is t-shirt ads, or the soap with the Sasquatch or something like that. But either way, you get this t-shirt ad and you see it, and you enter the process of thinking about buying a t-shirt, and that process goes into educating yourself about that company and educating yourself about that t-shirt, and then considering it, and then revisiting it later on, and then seeing that ad again, and then doing a little bit more education, and eventually you end up buying that t-shirt. In building, that sales funnel is oftentimes much longer. It's a bigger purchase, right? You're not spending $20 on a t-shirt. You're spending, possibly your life savings, or, making the biggest purchase of your life. So of course you're going to spend more money, which thus, usually means that the process in which making that decision is much longer. Now, that doesn't mean that they're introduced to your company years and years prior to actually making the sale. Like, some people might be introduced to you and fall in love with you and make that decision right away. But the process in which they got to you is a long process. Oftentimes it's years of saving up and buying a house and thinking about renovating and buying a starter home and eventually wanting to flip that and build something, custom ground up. It's just a long process in order to get to, actually building or even remodeling a house. So the funnel per se is really long. Now, for me, for NS Builders and the way we've approached marketing is that, well, I want our funnel to be really, really wide at the top. And I'm going to compare it to something else in a moment, but I want our funnel to be really wide in the top. So effectively, I want millions of people dumping into this funnel. And that funnel is through social media, through our videos, through our blogs. We're doing blogs on NS Builders site on a weekly basis, which pertain to our projects. I'm doing weekly blogs on the Nick Schiffer website, which pertain to business. We are saturating the market with us, with business brand, with my personal brand, and creating awareness around us. So the goal there, and I've used this term before, is to become this thought leader in the industry, but also become the expert in the industry and the builder that people look towards, to set a particular standard. Now, I'm not going to say that we're the best builder or that we're the highest quality or that we're the most detailed or anything. I think we always have room to improve. There's always going to be someone better, but we are striving for something really great, and we're making sure that we're also promoting that, consistently through social media, and through our marketing, our marketing campaigns, as you'll call them. So, with that being said, we're going to create this funnel that, a ton of people start to realize who we are, because we are becoming part of the industry, and a name that is associated with the industry, and then a name that is associated with a particular level of detail or quality or style or whatever the case might be. Now, that funnel needs to be really wide at the top to capture those people, to start educating them. But that process, since that process is a long process, there's a ton of, ways out of that funnel on the way down, because they're going to educate themselves and realize, oh, they're in that particular market, no longer interested, or they only build this particular product, no longer interested, or their price point is this and I'm no longer interested, or I'm not actually looking to build anymore, no longer interested, or I found another house, no longer interested. So that funnel ideally is really wide at the top to educate people, and we become, again, that thought leader and related to the industry as a big brand. But by the time they get to the bottom of the funnel, that funnel needs to be really, really thin. And in my opinion, it's really, really thin because they've spent, an enormous amount of time educating themselves on who we are, that by the time that they're at that bottom of the funnel, that it's so thin that they are basically ready to say, yes, we want to work with you. Yes, we want to build. We're educated. We understand who you are. And we've committed to working with you. Obviously there's a process beyond that. There's going to be continued conversation, but, being that we're promoting ourselves and putting everything out there and being, authentic on, with our marketing approach, people have a really good sense of who we are. Now, why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because, I think from a referral base, and this is one of the conversations I've been having, is when you rely on referrals, which I think are awesome. There's certainly nothing to, look down upon referrals. But if it's your main source of new leads coming in, as you'll hear on the Modern Craftsman, Michael talks about, like, you're basically letting your clients dictate whether or not you have work, and it's just not good. But I compare that to, as I look at this wide funnel with a small bottom, we're looking at almost as a tube when it's just these client referrals, because people are coming in and already like, yeah, I've already been referred, I'm going right to working with them. And they skip a lot of the process of educating themselves on who you are. Now, I'm not saying that's always the case, but I just think that the process in which they move through that is faster. Now, you might say, well, Nick, that sounds great. Like, I'd rather them not take a year to decide to work with me. The problem is that they are less educated, and you're having to do more work, either right in the beginning, or they get into something that they don't fully understand. Now, I'm not saying that's always the case. Of course, referrals are great, and they might be the best thing, since sliced bread, and et cetera, et cetera. But the point is that, the process becomes faster, and they become less educated beyond, the referral network. Now, in my opinion, when you're controlling your marketing and you're sharing all this stuff and you're making these campaigns and kind of putting yourself out there, you are now in the driver's seat of who your clientele can be, not, a referral, not someone saying, hey, you should hire this guy, he did such and such job for me. Because I think about for us, right, where we continue to grow and do different projects and bigger projects and more complex projects, previous clients, I'll never turn away a great referral, but it doesn't always align with where our trajectory is positioned and where we are trying to go as a business, where our marketing we can skew that into, promoting what we're growing into, or what we're focused on now, or change, and adjust that accordingly. Now, why I said that at the very end of this, and I want to keep this discussion kind of short, The exciting announcement is that, myself and Doug, who produces his podcast, helps with our YouTube channel, and just overall marketing approach, especially when it comes to video, have decided to launch a media company. And that media company is going to be taking what we are doing with NS Builders and, building systems around that and offering it to other people in this industry. So if you're listening to this, you're probably in some way considering, improving your marketing capabilities, your social media strategy, your storytelling, your video, something along those lines. And Doug and I have really decided that, okay, why don't we take what we've learned in the last 7.5 years and package that together and offer it to other people in this industry. So that's exactly what we're doing. Now, I can't give you any more detail than that because we are early in setting everything up, but I did want to tease it. And if you would be interested in working with us, drop a comment below and kind of drop a comment below explaining what you are looking to improve upon and what you're hoping to capture from a marketing perspective, what your goals are from a marketing perspective. And we'll reach out to a couple of people. We're going to get an email set up here in the next couple of weeks once we get our name, everything registered, and we'll be sharing more. But again, if you want to talk about more in-depth marketing approach, even just a quick phone call, hop on the nickschiffer.com website. Stay tuned for announcements more about this media company. And of course, stick around for another episode next week. Make sure you check out the Revealed Ken's behind the scenes cabinet shop and millwork shop series this week, as well as a updated site visit. I'm going to hop on another job site and walk you through some of the details. One of my favorite things to do on a weekly basis. Cheers, guys. Appreciate you listening.